You're listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today we're here with Krisstina Wise. Kristina is a real estate mogul, millionaire coach, creator of several multi-million-dollar businesses, including Good Life, Luxury, The Paperless Agent, and WealthyWellthy, and that's WELLTHY for the second Wellthy, which is my favorite part. She is an international speaker and author of the Amazon best-selling Falling for Money, a romance novel for your bank account. Kristina was named one of the 100 most influential real estate leaders in the country. She has been featured on USA Today, as well as Apple, Contactual, and Evernote for her creative leadership with emerging technologies. And Kristina, first of all, thank you. And I'm pretty sure I pronounced that one space wrong. But yay, congratulations, and thank you for being on the podcast.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
One of the first things I ask all my guests is to share a story of hope. And I don't tell them what story to share, whatever you're inspired to share. But I believe that our journeys and our stories inside of us literally are our superpower, and they have to be shared, and they go out into the world and create this amazing ripple effect of hope. So I'm going to stop talking and just let you share your story.
Wow. Well, I mean, my story really starts in a trailer home. So I grew up from a very impoverished background and in a small town and didn't have much. And so from a young age, I was really interested in money and became very adamant about wanting to have a lot of money and be rich and get out of that situation, just based on where I grew up and how I grew up. So I was very motivated to make money and get good at it. And so, you know, my life journey took me to college to get an accounting and finance degree. I wanted to do business and money, and ultimately became an entrepreneur and business owner. So when it came to money, money was always something, like I said, I pursued. I wanted money, success, wealth, big things. I just wanted to prove myself to the world. And, you know, I just had that little fire inside me. And, you know, that all appeared to be working until really in 2013, I got horribly ill. And I went from being in the top of my industry with some of those accolades that you just mentioned, and was notorious in all of real estate across the board at a national level and beginning to be a global level at that time. And I thought I was perfectly fine until one day I got sick and couldn't get out of bed. And ultimately what I did is I just, you know, that kind of classic overachiever where I was just always in the pursuit of more and always the pursuit of never good enough and never satisfied, that happiness and joy and being good enough must be way out in the future somewhere. I just nearly accidentally killed myself by living this life that was unsustainable. So really it was on my deathbed that took a year just to really diagnose what was wrong and another year to heal. And I was slowly dying over that time. And so, you know, part of the reason why I share that story is I was almost completely out of hope because it was so dark and getting darker. And I was so filled with grief and regret and sadness because I was dying. I hadn't even lived yet. I'd missed my life because I was always in the pursuit of the next achievement. And, you know, whatever achievement I got, it wasn't enough. I needed the next one. I needed to compare myself with the next kind of jump in my success. So I was just so sad that I'd missed so much of my life. And then we couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I was deteriorating. I was breaking down. And again, I had no solutions. And every single day for at least 9 months, the only thing that kept me going was this mantra that I told myself that if I can make it through today, maybe tomorrow can be better. If I can make it through today, maybe tomorrow can be better. And I'd lost everything. I'd lost my health. I was starting to lose my family because, you know, they were watching me die. I lost my business because when I wasn't there to hold it up every single day, it was, you know, slowly but surely falling apart. And then I was losing my wealth because all of my money that I had spent so much time to accumulate and to grow was deteriorating because I had to pay for all this radical type of healthcare and unique, you know, alternative treatments to try to save my life. Now, the good news is I'm still here, so it worked. but just the hope for me was where I finally reached this turning point in my health journey is when I quit going and looking for the outside to heal me. When I quit going to the doctors and to the psychiatrist and the psychologists and this doctor and that doctor, when just trying to be my old self and just wanting to heal so I could get back to that crazy life that I lived. The turning point when I finally realized that to heal is an inside journey. I need to heal me from the inside out in all these different categories. And it was at that point that I started to get my hope back. Like, oh, I can actually heal myself. I can connect to the universe. I can ask and call in these things. I can save myself. That it's nobody else's job to save me. And so that's where I started to get that hope back before it was all gone, that there is so much magic in the universe that if I can tap into that, then I think I can pull myself out of it. And with the metaphor that I give is that if anybody's been there, what I just call that hero's journey, which is so dark and so painful and so scary, and it feels like you'll never get out of it, like you'll be trapped there forever. And that's where hope begins to die. But I remember just, for so long, it's like the metaphor was just I was in a dark room that was completely black. And every day would be like, maybe there'll be light tomorrow. Maybe there'll be light tomorrow. It was some point where I started doing this inner work and inner journey and working to figure out how to heal my own body and my own mind and my own everything. That at one point I saw like this pinpoint hole of light. And it was the size of a stick pin. I mean, it was that tiny, but it's the first time I'd seen light, like this feeling, like I felt like something's different. Finally, after day in and day out of all those months, something's different. And it was that pinpoint of light that was all the hope that I needed, that I knew that if I could turn darkness into a pinhole of light, then it could all become light again. And slowly but surely through that journey, it became light. So I guess the hope, to answer the question, is that we're all capable of extraordinary things, can even be healing ourselves or whatever the case is. And if we can just tap in and keep just doing the work and trust that things are working, things will, they'll recover, will improve, our bodies recover. That's what we do. And that always on the other side of these sometimes horrific events, I'm so happy I couldn't have told me this at the time, but I'm so happy I had that experience because it changed me. It gave me a whole new lease on life and it completely changed. I walked away from my old career. It gave me my purpose and what I do today. And I can't even imagine being connected to that old life, that was so important to me at the time. So even though it was the worst thing that ever happened to me, by far, it was actually the best thing as well. And I think, my story is the same as everybody else's, in some way, shape, or form.
By the way, I really relate to your story. I was the same way. I had built a very large interior design practice, and then something took over my health and put me on my deathbed. And it was that mindset the day they gave me my grandson, our 5th grandchild, and I was holding him thinking I would not have one memory of him. Like, he won't remember me at all. How do I create one memory? And immediately that, I don't know, for people who've been sick and given a not great diagnosis, you have that horrible feeling inside of you. And that moment filled my heart with love. And all I wanted to do was create one memory. And 10 years later, I'm still here creating memories and I never got cured. My stomach didn't grow back because my stomach was completely removed. It didn't grow back. But I am thriving in this diagnosis. So I love your wealthy, because I think people need to understand that it's like those scales of justice almost, that you have to balance them both out or things don't work properly. So tell us a little bit about that Wealthy, because I'm absolutely obsessed with the name.
Yeah, before I got sick, it wasn't even an idea, right? It was nowhere in the landscape of my life. My life was full on real estate technology, real estate brokerage, real estate, everything at a national level. And, like I said, I was very well known in the industry. And then when I walked away from that, because I just thought, this isn't my purpose. I had so much time to try to connect with who I really was and why I was here through that healing journey. that, on going through the worst of it and coming out and knowing I was going to make it, and then going through the healing process, I just learned so many lessons. I had so many awarenesses and so many just these ahas that came to me that I would have never seen before, because I was just in that narrow track to just what I call the more track, and just like blinders on to everything but that, those destinations where I was going. So when my world opened up with a whole different perspective and just a whole wide universe of things to see that I couldn't see before, one of the things I realized is that, I was always in the pursuit of wealth, and I did well at that. I was very successful, not just in business, but in net worth and wealth creation. But I realized that everything was about the money. It was just about the money and the success and the achievement and the accolades and the awards and the long list of accomplishments that just fed my ego and just, that's what I fed off of, because I was kind of empty inside otherwise. I didn't know it at the time, but in reflection. But coming out of that, I realized like the money is to support the cost of a good life. I never even enjoyed my life because I never slowed down enough to know if I was unhappy or not. I thought I was, but who knew, But when I lost my health, what became abundantly clear to me was my health is my number one asset in financial terms. So it's wealth, WELLTH, or wellness. How well am I? And I wasn't well. I was financially well, but I wasn't well in these other categories. And what's the point of having money if you don't have joy and you don't have your health and you don't have great relationships and, these different pieces? Like the money doesn't matter. But so that's where the brand came from, is like, oh, money wealth is important. In my case, I had $500,000 that saved my life and I paid cash for it. So I wouldn't be here if I wasn't practicing these financial, disciplines and laws. At the same time, I learned, but it's not about the money, that it's about, underwriting the cost of living a good life, a wealthy life. So that's where the name and the brand came from. And it's just understand, to your point, it's a harmony of being, creating wealth, making money through our impact and what we do, and enjoying this and being grateful for what we can bring in, and because it's an exchange for value for what we put out, and really, but versus the chase, it's more of an attraction and being grateful for what we do produce. And then what we spend it on, when it's spent on something meaningful and joyful and brings context and experience and memories and presence to our life, money then has such a beautiful reward that gets out of that external comparison game, because it's an internal thing, not an external thing. So it's really this blend of being good with money and loving money for the great things that it can do. But, knowing it's to serve, it's to serve goodness in all these different capacities.
I agree. I think the real wealth in our lives is our health. And for those of you who are like saying you probably because you have money, that's not the case. Because when I was on my deathbed, all the money in the world wasn't changing anything. So, but I agree that if you do have that bank built up, you definitely can get better care, better treatment. So it's kind of great. But I'm going to ask you a question and tell me what you think about this. I feel like with building wealth and our journeys bringing us to literally our place of purpose. That's what I feel like you're living in right now. You're standing in your place of purpose and you're standing there because of your journey. Wealth still comes, doesn't it? Because people, like for me, I became even more wealthy, standing in my purpose, getting that joy out in the world and doing what I know I was now meant to do.
Oh, girlfriend, I mean, 100%. I mean, a couple different things. Again, I couldn't even imagine being in that old life right now, that had I not gotten sick. And I think it was meant to be. I think it was Mother Universe taking me out the knees, because she's giving me signs, but I wasn't paying attention. Because again, I had my blinders. I was hell bent. I was going to do what I was planning to do. So I had to be taken out to wake up. And it took a long time for me to wake up, but I finally woke up. And part of that awakening was connecting to why I'm here. And I mean, nobody could pay me enough money to convince me I'm not doing exactly what I was put on this planet to do. Why I was born is like what you're doing now. I know I'm doing what I was supposed to be doing. Nobody can convince me otherwise. And I just would have never wound up here if it weren't for, that experience. And before, where I was always chasing money and trying to make money and just kind of this force and this push and, I did it and I did well, but it came at a high cost, like the highest cost. Now, to your point, money's just so easy. It just flows in. I mean, I can't even tell you. I just had something that happened today that I'm like, I just said this thing to Mother You. I'm like, just thank you for just dropping this financial abundance in my lap. Like, just thank you. And again, it's just now it just kind of drops in versus me having to go force it and chase it and make it happen. And it's a radically different energy. And this is the way I think it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be flow and just more, I work hard, don't get me wrong, but just simple in the sense that, by going out, it comes in versus trying to make it happen. And it's hard to explain unless you kind of had this experience of the difference, but it's a very different energy. And, it's just waking up, being in gratitude and flow. And this is my purpose. And what great things can I make happen today? And like the reward is the money just drops in.
I literally just got goosebumps because honestly, all I could think of is now we work in a place of joy instead of a place of need. And we're overly blessed because of that. But I definitely think that being in a place of joy is so much better than a place of need, like feeling like we need to get to the next level. We need to do this. We need to do that. Now I'm in so much joy with everything I do that it just fills my day and it's amazing. One of the other things I wanted to ask you about is I don't want people to think they have to get sick and almost be dying before they get a slap in the face. And I say this all the time. You already know what you need to be doing. It starts with that intuitive whisper. And then that whisper starts becoming with a few maybe minor symptoms or signs. And pretty soon when you keep ignoring, something knocks you on your butt. And if you could just listen to those intuitive whispers and start moving with that flow, that's like a first step of change. But what would you suggest to people? I don't want them to wait till they're on their deathbed to have their aha moment. I was 50 in my 50s. I just turned 60 last week and I was in my 50s and I had the best decade of my life because I started to learn to listen to that intuitive whisper and follow where it was leading me and be in that space of joy. What would you be telling people now to not wait until that moment, but to start listening to that intuitive voice? How would they move forward?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes, which I don't remember, who quoted it, but it says, change never happens until there's a crisis. And that's just it. Like, why does it take crisis to wake us the hell up? Myself included, more than once in my life. And so, but it is because I know for me, and it sounds like you, I wasn't listening. I was getting all sorts of flags and signals and signs, and I just didn't pay attention. I just thought I was bigger than or more powerful than, or I don't even know what. So I think by nature, but I didn't even, everything was so business and so hard. Like just, I think even that forceful energy, when we live in that forceful energy and that stress, it's either one or the other or a combination of both, where it's that constant need to push and force. It takes so much energy that over time, our body just can't keep it up. The other side of that is the true stress / anxiety energy, that constant stress and pressure and anxiety, it can hold those same types of consequences. So I think that's a little bit of a sign. And then when we start having these little bitty health things that just are kind of out, they're odd, they're weird, they just don't quite fit, they're out of the blue. There's the signs. Our bodies are they're the vehicles for the universe to talk to us. So our bodies are telling us, stop, slow down, wake up, pay attention. I'm trying to talk to you here. Please listen to me. But we ignore and we ignore and we ignore until it gets so bad. Then, it's just now that we have to go step out of our life to go, take care of our healing. So that's my belief, is when we start noticing these little things, it's just a sign that we're getting messages, and start paying attention to what those may be. And, and listen to the podcast, listen to these different things. And no, we don't have to get sick. We don't have to completely break down. Well, I don't advise it, don't do what both you and I have done, don't do it. It's not, it's horrible. So we can learn these lessons. We can wake up and we can start paying attention without getting sick or having some type of massive crisis in our life.
I agree 100%. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast? Because it sounds amazing.
My podcast is called WealthyWellthy. It's the WealthyWellthy podcast. And I interview experts that have a counter-conventional mindset when it comes to money and when it comes to health or any category in wellness. So I interview experts that just have this unconventional point of view because I'm always challenging myself. I always want to like puncture my old thinking or looking for places I'm limited or looking for places where I have cognitive, I have biases to my own belief biases or these different things. So I love bringing on those that expand my thinking and let others listen in. But it's really designed to, for all of us that are in this wealth and health journey as a combo. We've got these great people as leaders, mentors, and guides that share their point of view and how that's impacted their life.
You have on your Instagram page, which we're going to have all the links for Kristina's Instagram, podcast, all that. But you have this, I watched the 17-minute video you have on there with the WELLTHY part with a friend of yours, your best friend, you said is your daughter.
Kaylee, yes.
She was amazing. So if that's anything like your podcast, you guys are going to definitely want to connect with this and start balancing out your flow, your energy flow, your health flow, and your money flow, and have a better relationship with it. On that, you also wrote a book, and I want to be able to plug that because I have a real belief with the clients that I work with as a mindset coach that their money relationship sucks. Like sometimes they're making so much money that they stop because they don't feel worthy of the money they're making. And like, who stops their flow of money when there's an abundance coming to you? But it happens all the time. And so I love that your book is about having that love affair with money and understanding what it's all about. Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Yeah, my book is called Falling for Money, and it's really about that, like going through and part of my life story, part of the story I told, not in too much detail in the book, but it's just sharing my story of how even though I had done well financially, I had a really terrible relationship with money. And a couple different places. One, just the relationship of, more is better. And, that had a lot to do with comparison. So much of my motivation came from my childhood. It's like, look at me, look at me. I didn't know it at the time. So that was my relationship, that more is better. And I need to accumulate a lot and I need to show it off a lot. And, those different things, to then where it became a real spiritual relationship, and how that really changed things is through the spiritual journey. And then, and so there's story in there, but it's also very practical as far as not just the relationship with money, but also what we do and how to do it to make sure we don't self-sabotage. But I mean, I have made millions of dollars, and I don't mean millions just, I've made millions in business, but I mean, I've had millions of dollars of net worth, and I've lost it more than once. And it's because I've always been great at making money. I love making money. I love money. I love making it. Part of my story, I think, really emphasizes that. And I still love, I love making money. It just fills me, because it just shows me what's possible with my creativity and the value that I offer the world. And so, I just have a real joy with that. But I've never had difficulty making money. But because I had that inward belief, that subconscious belief that I wasn't worthy, I was really good at making stupid mistakes to lose millions. I can't even tell you how many millions I've lost, but I really attribute it back to your point of not feeling worthy, like I wasn't meant to keep it, and so I was just meant to be that trailer park girl that just had to kind of work hard and do these different things. And so once I cleaned that narrative up and did that work, I don't lose it anymore. But it took a lot of just digging and coming up with that awareness. Like, you couldn't have told me that before. Years before, I'd been like, what, are you kidding? I have a great relationship with money. But yeah, the relationship is really important. When it comes to money, there are two pieces. Well, there's really three pieces. There's the mindset, and the mindset is kind of our beliefs and where we're stuck. So we all have a stuckness when it comes to our beliefs about money and these narratives about money that usually come from childhood programming. Most of us are carrying the 7-year-old narrative that we got from our parents from listening and being in that. So most of us are carrying our parents' dialogues and mindsets when it comes to money. and narratives. The second piece is the relationship. And we want to move, if we're avoiding our money, we're afraid to look at it. We think it's a bad thing. We don't want to touch it. We procrastinate it. We don't want to open the bills, or, even if our business, if we're not tracking it, those are all signs. It's like, remember those signs when our health is starting to show us some signs that we're neglecting our body and we're neglecting to pay attention to things. Those are signs with our money that we're neglecting it. And if we neglect money, like we neglect our health, that's why it's wealthy. They follow the exact same principles. They're really one and the same. But if we neglect this, we're going to have financial illness, and financial illness can be just as devastating as health illness. And so we get these little signs. And so the relationship piece is where we want to move it from this belief of there's never enough, or I don't have enough, or there'll never be enough, or stuck in this month to month and I avoid it and I neglect it. That's usually that's an unhealthy relationship. That's like, a spouse or a family member that you don't want to spend time with. You don't want to spend time with them for a reason. If it's a loving, kind, beautiful relationship, you want to spend lots of time. So that's the relationship piece with money. We want to spend time with it. We want to get good with it. We want to dance with it. We want to be grateful for the goodness that it does for ourselves and others. And the more money we have, the more generous we can be. There's just so much goodness for good money being in the good hands of good people who really value the money for the meaning it brings to their lives and to the world and to the planet. I'd rather good money be in the hands of good people as opposed to all the greed and all this stuff out there, that we can see quite often. And then the third piece is really the skill set, that money is a life skill, which means it needs to be learned, but it's not taught in school. So what's common sense about money and conventional wisdom is what really sabotages our ability to really grow real wealth and passive income and security and stability and freedom and sovereignty and all these things we all really want down at the core. So there's knowledge that we need to know, but it's not really given to us. So it's something that needs to be sought out. And so that's my book, really kind of flows that. And then, I have a money school for those people that, want to go to a little night school of money to learn everything we should have learned in school about money, but they didn't offer that class. And then ties it all together, the money and the wealth, the wealthy. And just remember, it's all about living a wealthy life, and money just serves the cost to be able to pay for it.
I love that. I feel like the more that we are blessed with money and the abundance of money, the more we're able to show up and serve and do the things that we really want to do. So, by the way, I am going to get all those links from you so that you guys can connect with her money school, so that you can grab her book, listen to her podcast. I'm totally obsessed now. So I will be doing all of those things. Krisstina, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Jana, thank you so much. And I can't wait to hear your story.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.